before we begin, we have something special for you. So all eyes on the screen. Boys and girls and children of all ages, make some noise for Kalki Koechlin. Over to you.
Thank you, Madonna. What a name to carry.
So is yours, Kalki.
That's true. That's true. And thank you to the organizers, the volunteers that have made this happen today, to Ankur Malhotra who invited me, to the Chitkara family, and most of all to this audience for showing up. You're the reason we have jobs. And of course, Manju, because you just jumped in last minute because my anchor has missed her connecting flight. So good luck to you. How are you feeling?
Feeling, well, I have my questions.
Good.
But thank you. I'm meeting Kalki after 10 years because 10 years ago, her fabulous film called Waiting, go and watch it. It's one of the most beautiful films that you'll watch.
Amazon.
Yes. Had premiered in Dubai, and I had a chance to meet this lovely lady with so much, talented, beautiful, and diverse. There's one thing very interesting about Kalki. Of course, there are several things, but I'll start with saying that the Eiffel Tower of Paris and the Statue of Liberty has a connection with Kalki. So she'll tell you what is the connection of those two great monuments with this lovely actress. Can we start with that?
Oh, yeah. My great-grandfather, Maurice Koechlin, was the chief engineer of both those. And yes, thank you. Yeah, it doesn't help. I don't get any discount when I go to the Eiffel Tower. But yeah.
Right. So we start with your childhood. You have an interesting upbringing because you were brought up in India, in the south of India. And tell us about that first. And that's why you can speak so many languages as well.
Yes, I was born in a little village near Pondicherry called Periyamudalli Shavadi. And it's a little fishing village. And I grew up speaking Tamil and French before I spoke English. Or Hindi. Hindi was much later. And then I went to boarding school in Ooty, Hebron school, very sort of strict Christian boarding school. And then I went and studied drama and theater in London, got my BA from there. Then I joined some theater companies. Then, I became famous. Then you know the rest. It's on Wikipedia.
Right. The most mispronounced surname that you have. So tell us about the variations of your surname.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the variations because then you won't say the right version. It's Koechla, like chocolate cake la mere liye. Aaj ki nahi, kal ki.
Also, we'll start with the Kalki again. It's one of the avatars of Vishnu.
Yes.
And you're named after the last avatar of Vishnu. So is that...
A lot of pressure to save the world from Kali Yuga. I know. Tell me about it. But yeah, my mother chose that name.
Okay.
My mother was in the Aurobindo ashram and, was quite fascinated by all religions, but Hinduism as well as all other religions, and she loved this name.
It's interesting though, because I go to Aurobindo ashram every year. This is my 10th year. I just come back in January. And it's interesting to know that you have a history with Auroville and the ashram. So what was unique about those years that you were growing up?
What was unique was, everything about the place was unique. One was that I wasn't in either the ashram or in Auroville. I was in this little village,
Okay.
a Tamilian village. So along with this like influence from, you know, all the Europeans in Auroville and all the sort of, a lot of Bengalis in the ashram in Pondicherry, there was also this very Tamilian influence on my life. So it's a very unique, it was a unique triangle for me to grow up in.
Right. So we'll now talk about your book, Elephant in the Womb. This is not your first book.
It is.
It is your first
My
book?
first
What
book.
about the Skeleton Lady?
Skeleton Woman. Yeah, Skeleton Woman was part of 3 plays that were published. You're right. And it's also from Penguin. But first, only mine with my name on it. Solo book.
Okay, okay. So tell us about the book, the making of the book, and everything about it.
Oh, that's a lot of questions rolled into one, Manju.
Well, you know why.
Elephant in the Womb is, you know, a play on elephant in the room. So the idea that we don't talk about the most obvious thing that's in the room. And with motherhood, I really felt that when I became a mother. I was like, nobody told me this, nobody told me that. And I was shocked, and so I started journaling and writing about it and turned into a book,
And
a comic book for adults.
So how has parenting and being a parent changed you as an artist? Has it changed you, enhanced you?
Yeah, of course. Being a parent means juggling one more role into your life. It means readjusting, remapping, reworking completely. Because you want to be part of your child's life. Of course, you can hand over your child to a nanny and let them raise them. But if you want to be part of that raising a child, which I do, then this juggling of work-life balance becomes pretty tough to handle. You need to be very good at multitasking and you know, timetabling things so that you can get it all done.
So what is the language that comes closest to you while speaking to your child? What is that?
Literal language?
What is the language that is? Because you grew up with many languages.
So she speaks 4 languages.
Okay.
She speaks Hindi, Hebrew, French, and English.
Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty multicultural.
Like you as well. Okay. So what is a piece of advice you would give to parents like yours who are like hands-on parents who want to raise their child on their own without too much of interference with help around?
What's the piece of advice I would give? I think, firstly, especially during pregnancy and the first 6 months after you've given birth, that time, at least for a woman, for the woman, not for the man has done what? Just like 20 seconds of work. So for the woman, you have to understand there is going to be a period of time where you do not belong to yourself, where you lose your sense of self completely. Really, you are at service of another human being, and it's not in your hands. There is a biological like rewiring that happens that just says this baby has to survive, even if you don't survive. You know, that's the wiring biologically. So there is a period of time where you are so in demand from your body, from your bodily fluids to, you know, your time and your energy and your mental health, all dedicated to this little creature that's coming. But yeah, so there's that period, but there's also, I think the valuable thing is that it changes all the time. And when you have a kid, you realize that you have to adapt. Every 6 months, nothing is permanent. And that actually becomes a comfort, knowing that, okay, this is an adjustment. You know, there was an adjustment where we actually lived on the floor for like 3 months. Because she was bumping into things, she was falling off the bed. So we just put everything on the floor. We started eating on the floor. We started putting all the mattresses on the floor. We lived on the floor for 3 months. Wow. And that's just a metaphor of those changes happen all the time. We've just shifted house to be 2 minutes from her school. You know, these things just, you accept change in a much, drastic change in a much more easy way, I feel, to do things.
Do you think you're more, I'm sure you have always been, but you think you're more empathetic towards working moms now, especially in your field, especially people from the performing arts?
Of course. It's a very It's a very tough thing. When I'm here, I want to be with her. When I'm with her, I want to be here.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. Mom, there should be a separate planet or a separate universe for mom's guilt.
Right, I remember Aisha Deol coming up with a book on baby recipes right after she delivered. So I think there's a perspectival change towards a lot of artists because this entire motherhood is new to a lot of people. And of course it sensitizes you, but you also speak about isolation and motherhood. So tell me about that.
Yeah, the first, I had a double whammy because I had the baby and then immediately we went into lockdown. So, I was just alone. We didn't have help. My partner was there, but, and it was really intense. And no sleep because I was also breastfeeding. So that period of time, I mean, it's a combination of things. It's hormonal. There's some crazy hormonal fluctuations, which, are really important to know about, which there is very little information unless you go out and do the research or you go and speak to a gynae. There's crazy hormonal shifts in those first few months. There's the fact that you don't sleep. You basically don't sleep. This baby needs 24/7 care in those first few. So this combination is deadly and really affects your mental health. And I had a doula that I was in contact with. I was doing Zoom sessions with her, and it was so helpful for her to tell me week by week, this is going to come. Now this is going to come. Now you're going to have to deal with this. Because I knew it was coming to an end. Because otherwise there were times where I was just staring at the wall and crying and being like, this is my life forever now. I'm just going to be changing diapers and feeding and that's it, And so knowing that each phase comes to an end and there's a different phase is very important. And I can't stress this enough, there's no books out there about this. You have this great book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's like the Ramayana. It's like the holy book of pregnancy. It's fantastic. And you must have it. But it stops the moment the baby's born.
Yeah.
And then your nurse gives you like one quick lesson on how to latch the baby to your boob. And you're left on your own. This thing is not bigger than an American sushi. It's tiny. And you have to keep it alive. And you're terrified.
Yes.
And really, unless you have a doula, and these are alternative things, not many people do that,
Right.
But unless you have that information, I think there should be a week-to-week breakdown of hormonal changes, mental health, physical health, all of that. Really, there should be a Bible on the holy book of postpartum.
Yeah, postpartum depression is not spoken about at all. In a way,
Yes.
Also each woman goes through a different kind of postpartum depression.
Yes.
It's not a linear thing. But did you have friends to speak to? Did you take advice from
Yeah, the
peers
last
and-
chapter of the book is actually based on interviews from all my friends who've had children.
Okay.
And they going back to their postpartum and telling me what was their main struggle. So one of my friends couldn't breastfeed, and she was like really keen on breastfeeding, but she had to switch to formula, and she felt like she was a failure. But, she did a fantastic job, and so the struggles and the expectations that are there. Another woman was like, she said, I had to claw my way back to my career. The expressions they used, it's really important.
I completely agree because I remember when I had my baby long ago, and I went back to an article that I was reading. And I was looking at the article and liking it. I didn't read the name of the person whose article it was. And I realized it was mine. And I had not realized that I had gone down to a certain level of not understanding my own language.
Not recognizing yourself. Yeah.
So I think that struggle of
sense
back
of self
is so real.
Yeah.
And you're not always surrounded by people who are helpful.
Oh my God, no. The comments that I got from pregnancy to postpartum, I mean, I remember it was always the wombless bastards also, the men.
Yes.
Making these comments, it's natural to give birth. Yeah. Everybody has been doing it. I'm like, you've never done it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And yes, everybody has been doing it.
For years. True.
Yes, every woman has been doing it forever in history, but till the 1930s, it was common for women to die in childbirth. Till 2010, I think 500,000 women were dying of childbirth. It's a bloody dangerous thing to go through. So please don't tell me everybody just does it. And so that used to get to me. The other one was that journalists, a lot of journalists used to ask me, how do you feel about giving birth out of wedlock? You know, like I was in a Jane Austen storybook, like from the old 80, from like 200 years back. Like, oh my God, you're pregnant without being married. So yeah, I remember that being a big deal. But then also the opposite of that was there were so many women who just had small babies, and they were like, your book is on my bedside table.
Empowered.
Yeah, or in the loo, because that's the only place I have for privacy. So your book is in the loo, and I read it really like with hunger. So that's really also very encouraging.
Do you see yourself enacting a role from the book or the book into a film?
I have a show. Okay. It's like a 20-minute piece, which is inspired from the book. It's called I'm Okay, which is all about not being okay.
Wonderful. Now we'll come back to your films also.
Yes.
Because that's the next page that has been given to me. But yeah, you are choosy about the films that you do. I first wanted to ask you, why not so many Tamil films? You're so familiar with the language.
I guess, I don't know why. I think because a lot of people didn't know I spoke Tamil in the Tamil industry, and I'm not much of a hustler. I don't really push for it. If something happens, and yeah, I mean, Nesi Paya, this movie that I just did, has released, and now everybody's like, oh, she actually speaks Tamil. And, we'll see if it results in more work.
Right. You guys have watched Margarita with a Straw? Anyone here? There are people. Okay, so tell us about the film.
3 people.
There'll be more after this session for sure. So about that film, it's quite an unusual film for you to choose and also enact, and the research behind a character like that. Was it extensive that you?
Yes, it was. It was 6 months of prep for the film. Shonali, my director, absolutely requested that I do nothing else for 6 months. And she gave me the access that I needed.
You met?
Malini Chib, who is disabled with cerebral palsy. I lived with her. I spent time with her. She gave me her old wheelchair to practice. I spent time with her physiotherapist, her speech therapist. I really got to see it up close. I wouldn't have been able to do it without that.
Interesting. Also, you guys should go and watch the film because it's quite a unique take on what we, as I can't say special or non-special, most people do not look at the other world.
The sex lives of the disabled.
Yes. Also, very interestingly, I have a memory associated with your very, very well-known character in a Ranbir Kapoor film, which I think all of us know. Who are we talking about? Which film are we talking about, guys? This everybody knows. This everybody's seen. I remember when they had come to Dubai for the promotion of the film, they were all seated. And because I think the press conference was boring, probably, and they were starting to draw all of us. They were making pictures. They were, in fact, they had a paper and they were sketching us. All the journalists were being sketched by the actors on stage.
Yes.
And I remember asking them, and then I think Kalki showed the paper, and some of them were devils and some of them were angels, so I remember that very well. But what a beautiful character that was. That character that you played.
Yeah.
And tell us about, if you take us back to those days, about filming that entire.
Yeah, that was a fantastic time. I think Ayan did a wonderful thing, which was our director. He put us all in a car instead of flying to Manali, I think to Chandigarh, and then he actually got us to drive from Delhi all the way. So we really, the 4 of us in a car together really got to just hang out. And he kept doing these things, isolating the 4 of us so that we were in a situation where we just had to get along. And that created a kind of friendship before we were shooting. It was a lot of fun,
And Zindagi.
Yes, and Zindagi. I didn't get to hang out with anybody in Zindagi. No, I was the wet mop, right? So I was the one who was, not fitting in and had to wear these ridiculous high heels that were more like apartments than high heels, like 10 floors. But I have to say the costume really helped the character.
Yes.
Because the minute you're in that tight outfit with those heels, you just totter like a poodle. And it helped a lot.
But what a character that was. Such
Yeah.
a possessive, strong,
Yes.
but very domineering
Yes.
character.
Yes.
And have you met people like that in real life?
Sure. Yeah, I have.
Any references that came to your mind when you played it? Or was it totally out of your imagination?
I mean, I always have references, but I can't say the names of the people I reference.
Right. Okay, tell us about Goldfish as well. Because
Goldfish was a film that I shot postpartum actually, and that was a great big challenge because I had been in lockdown and this baby had all my attention 24/7 because I didn't have any work because we were in lockdown, and then suddenly I was having to shoot 12-hour days. And I remember we reached London and we had gone 2 weeks early because we had to be in that bubble, to like COVID bubble and all. And I had to get a nanny from there because my nanny didn't get a visa, etc. So I was trying to adjust Sappho to this new environment, to the nanny, so that I would be able to go. And it was the day before the first day of shoot, okay? And she was not having any of it. She refused to go with nanny Amanda, her name was. She refused to go with her, and she refused to do anything. She refused to sleep. She knew something was coming that she was very nervous about. And and it was the night before shoot. I had a 6 a.m. start. It was 10 p.m. She hadn't fallen asleep. She was wailing in my arms. I'd taken her in the carrier for a really long walk in Clapham Park or something. And still she wasn't falling asleep. Then I sat down on a bench and I said, listen, Sappho, I really want to do this job. It's really important to me, and I've been waiting a long time to get back to work, and I promise you I will be here at the beginning and the end of every day. I will be with you. But the rest of the time, I need you to go with Nanny Amanda. She fell asleep within 2 minutes, and the next morning, she woke up, and I swear to God, she said, where's Nanny Amanda?
wow.
And it was a huge lesson for me that I don't need to be strong in front of my daughter. Yeah. I can tell her my vulnerabilities and my needs, and it's a give and take. Yeah. And that was a big lesson because we're always trying to be like, we can handle it all. But giving her that side of me was very important. And now I just tell her what I feel, and she tells me also, and yeah, it's a good feeling. I know it'll all change when she becomes a teenager. I'll have to hide behind my husband.
How were you as a teenager then?
Oh, I was terrible with my mom. Terrible, If you see Goldfish, my mother watched the film and she said, oh, it's a documentary on us. Yeah.
But do you go back to this, does your mother ever tell you that when you have your daughter, you will know? Have you been through that situation?
Not too much. My mother seems to have wiped out a lot. I was calling her after I gave birth. What is this? What is that? She said, I don't know. I'm like, how can you forget this horrible thing? How can anyone have a second baby? How? So, but I think I don't know, it's also the times that they lived in. They had to just swallow it up and do it all, And I think now we have a lot more ability to talk about the issues, and we have also access to therapists, to gynecologists, and doulas. All of these things help us a lot. That process is quite different than what she went through.
Yeah, because they had none, or probably had a couple of
and so she has this habit of saying, I sacrificed my whole life for my kids, And it's true, because they did sacrifice their whole lives. And then when the kid grows up and leaves, there's an empty nest. And it is leaving a huge void in a lot of women, especially the women who give up their careers and everything. And it's quite a thing to get back after that. Yeah. So, luckily we are, we are the opposite. We are supposed to be super moms. We're supposed to just do the career and the motherhood without a hiccup, which is also very
But do you see this entire idea of a superwoman, supermom, is overrated because it's a lot of work given to you or thrust on you. Yeah. And you're supposed to be a goddess who can do everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wrong, I think, because, we don't want to be supermoms, We just want to be, having good sleep and getting on with our work and being professional. Yeah. But we have to be because of the system of patriarchy and the demands. I mean, literally, when I joined, when I put Sappho in school, the parents group, there was a parents group, they put me on the parents group. And I scrolled through it and there were only the moms.
No dads.
And then I said, Guy, what is this? And my partner, Guy, he said, oh, I want to be in the group. So I asked them to put my husband on the group, and then suddenly, a few weeks later, a few men came on the group, sheepishly, and now it's all the parents, you know, and it's become a proper mixed group. Right. And that is, you know, someone needs to take that first step and say, yeah, dads want to be, they want to be dads
involved, yeah.
also, you know, and somehow, if you can't get paternity leave, you can't be a dad. Yeah. You know, you are also the one going out and working, so you need to push for something like paternity leave so that dads get to experience that bond with their kids.
Right. So is there any film, Bollywood film, that you'd like to rewrite from your perspective? What would that be?
Yeah. So I thought about this, and I'll say the title of my feminist Bollywood rewrite. Okay, and you guys have to guess the original. Okay? So the film is called Antara Aisha Amanda. Amar Akbar Anthony. Yeah, I think that would be a very good...
Would you be directing it as well or acting in it? And which
I would be
would
directing it. And I haven't thought about my cast, but I think a policewoman, Qawwali singer, and owner of a bar would be kick-ass roles for women.
So you haven't thought of the cast yet? Anyone?
I haven't thought about the cast, I have to say. Should I think about it right now?
Yes.
Okay, let's choose. Sorry, I'm having so much trouble. Okay, Richa Chadda as Antara.
Okay.
And I'll choose, who should I choose? Alia Bhatt as Aisha and chalo, Lisa Ray, since she's here, as Amanda.
Amazing. And the songs, I mean, you've just thought of it right now. It's not thought out totally.
I haven't written the script, by the way.
Okay. Right. What else? Okay. If someone made a book about your life, what would it be called?
Made in India. Yeah.
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 What's next for you?
What's next? I have a series for Amazon called Bhay, which is based on Gaurav Tiwari, who was this paranormal explorer who died by suicide in 2018. And there's a lot of controversy around his death. So that's coming up next. And yeah, I'm doing this show, I'm Okay. I'm going next week to Calcutta, then to Raipur. So it's like a kind of a spewing out, a comic stand-up on motherhood and pregnancy. Yeah, you know.
And the next book?
Next book, I have no idea. I am journaling a lot. I am unraveling a lot of things about my family history. Because I think when you have a kid, you're suddenly curious about how your mom grew up, how you grew up, how your mom grew up, how your grandmother grew up. Like suddenly you go back in history. So I'm finding that I'm journaling a lot, so who knows? Maybe that will turn into something. I'm not much of a planner. We'll see. Okay,
so one final question before we open it out to the audience is, how do you protect your inner space as an artist?
How do I protect my inner space? I think you need to replenish a lot because, you know, when you're on a set and you're giving all your time and your emotions, you're working 15 hours a day, you know, it's a lot that you're, so there's times where you need to like go off and be isolated, be in nature. For me, it really helps. Switching off my phone, picking up stories, lots of books to read, inspirational stuff to read, yeah, just replenishing all those aspects of you is really important for me.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I will open the floor to questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kalki, and thank you for those longer answers so that I could refer my questions.
Yeah.
Such strong women characters that you play in the cinema. ये go-getter जो attitude है, ma'am, how you carry this. Also managing your, life as well. So what piece of advice would you like to give it to me?
Oh gosh, but it sounds like you're doing a great job. You're an entrepreneur. You have your own child. You're juggling many things.
Juggling.
It doesn't get any easier, I think. I mean, it goes through phases. It's hard and easy and hard and easy. But this phase in our life, you got to remember that it's like the bottleneck phase. I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me, where you're caregiving for your kid who's young, you're also caregiving for your parents who are getting older. You're not yet at that financial, complete security. And then it's just going to open up one day. I remember an much older friend talking to me about it and saying, my parents have passed away, my kids have grown up, I have money, I have a house, and now I started a whole new career. So, and I mean, there's this fantastic comedian, Callie Beaton. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's 55, and she raised her kids. She was not doing anything but being a housewife, and then she became a stand-up comedian, talking about perimenopause and menopause at 50. So there's never an end to life until you're gone. So you just keep doing stuff. You keep reinventing yourself.
But trust me, it's worth appreciating and worth admiring you sitting there and hearing you talk. Wonderful. And keep doing the good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say that we all love you because of your role in YGHT, and the nature of Aditi, that is so friendly, and her bond with Bunny is so true that we all want a friendship like that in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that because we all don't have any of our friends saying that, calling us to our parties or some wedding or something, saying that मैं वीडियो तुझे तू क्यों इसलिए भेज रही हूँ ताकि तू मुझे थोड़ा मिस करे और मेरी शादी पे आ जाए. So I only wanted to ask you that, do you have any real friends in your...
Do I have any real friends?
No.
I do, thank goodness.
And how can we make such friends in our lives for so many years going?
I don't know if you can make those friends later. Now is your time. You're a student, right?
Yeah.
Now is your time. Because the kind of person that you become once you start working and you have a family and all this, there's very little time for community. And now you guys, this is the time where you form bonds that are there for your life. You might not realize it now, but I have gotten back in touch with my school friends after having given birth, to be like, guys, what's this all about? So there, and sometimes you lose touch with those friends for 10 years, but it comes back because they know you as a raw person before you were defined by your career, before you're defined by your family, by your relationships and all of those. They know you for who you were growing up. So that is a precious thing, and it can last a lifetime. So hang on to it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So many people.
Hello, ma'am. First
Hi.
of all, I want to say I am a huge fan of you. And
you.
It's been such a privilege to see you up this close. And I have two questions, actually. First of all is, with the rise of OTT platforms, do you think Bollywood has become more open to unconventional narratives? Or do you think there's still room for change?
There's always room for change, but it has changed a lot, yes. I mean, now there's way more interesting roles for women. Women can lead a lot more in OTT platforms. Of course, not to mention the crew, the musicians, the writers are getting incredible opportunities to flesh out the work. So it's changed the game for sure. It's also challenged the norms of what is conventional. Now even the big stars are doing OTT shows. So that is now becoming conventional. The OTT is a become conventional, then some other thing will come in and again we'll be challenging it. So yeah, this is a continuous process, I think.
Thank you. And my second question is that you have done theatre and Bollywood. So do you think theatre gives you more creative freedom compared to like shooting and like Bollywood movies?
It really depends. There are some theatre tyrants who also control you. And there are some film people who will say do what you want. So it really depends on who your director is, on how the cast is and everything. But I would say theatre for me is like, it just keeps the acting muscles alive, you know, because it's live, because you have a palpable like energy exchange between audience and you. There's a real need to stay on your toes. And in that way, it keeps me very, I don't know, it just keeps my acting muscles in place. In film, you tend to be isolated. You're in your van, you go straight to the shot, and you suddenly just have to emote this one tear or whatever. And it can be quite isolating. And I think the community of theatre really helps me refill, I guess, to be able to then go onto a set and like give that one tear.
Thank you so much.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm at the same spot at the balcony upside.
Ah, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So it was really nice listening to you and knowing about your story of a supermom. My mama is also a supermom, and actually she's a businesswoman and she runs a school. And while she was pregnant, while during her pregnancy, she ran her business and then took care of my little sister too. And you also said that we children, when we have to go out for our opportunities to better cities, we leave our parents behind. And this leaves a void in them which they, I don't know, can't fill. But I just wanted to ask that how can we as kids, what can we do for our supermoms that can be a bare minimum thing to them?
See, I guess there's two sides to this. One is that the fact that your mother did this, your mother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that she did this meant that you saw her as an empowered woman.
Yeah.
So you are going to recognize an empowered woman as an adult. You are going to think that's normal. And that's a fantastic thing that she's given you. Secondly, I think that, you know, if you enjoyed having, I think that you yourself will want to do similar thing of handling both. I think that we live by example. So what we see our parents doing, we want to do as well. So a lot of the time that's an unconscious thing, but you will probably find yourself, empowering the women in your life by being like, oh, you want to do this and you want to do this. Okay, we'll figure out how to make that work. Let's readjust. I'll do this. You handle that, whatever. Like it's pieces of puzzles that come together. So I think, if you've already experienced an empowered woman, it's much easier. I think those who have not have a lot more difficulty accepting that a woman's role can be multiple. And in that sense, that, you know, we still need to change a lot of mindsets about how men can be great caregivers too at home, you know, and that the need for paternity leave as well as maternity leave is very important, you know. There's time for both. There's time when a mother needs to be home, there's a time where a father needs to be home. Yeah.
Also wanted to ask that what as kids can we do as a bare minimum for our parents?
What can kids do
Yeah.
for parents who go through this feeling of emptiness? What can the kids do for them?
Well, that at this as grown-up kids, yeah, like at your age. I mean, I think it's just a phone call, yeah. Just being in touch. Being in touch is great because I definitely went through a phase after I left my mom. Because she was a single mom from I was 13 when my dad left. So I went through a phase where I went to London. I didn't see her for like, 5-6 years. And I think in those times, those phone calls were like really important. And there were times where I would forget to call her, you know. So if you can just be conscious of being in touch, because they're not always going to be around. And you know, it's, but I guess these things happen only like with time. You realize it with time. Like now, you know, now that I have I have a child and I want my grandparents to be involved with the child, you realize the need for that connection.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
First of all, I love your movies. I've seen Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, and I'm waiting for second part to come soon. And,
Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, second part, okay.
and my question is that I've listened to your experience during childbirth and before that. And I want to ask that us men, what can we do? Because this is a topic more talked about but less focused by men about women's struggles during that and after that also. So us men, what we can do to be there for our women so that they feel that, okay, my man did something when I was in that phase of 9 months and after childbirth.
I think the biggest thing that I found is that, you know, there's this mental load on the woman to run everything. To run the household, like khana kya kha rahe hain? To see if there's the food and the right ingredients in the fridge, to see what are we having for lunch, to see if the diapers have been refilled. You know, I remember one time when the diapers, I just wanted to see if my husband would notice, at the time he was my partner. Anyway, I wanted to see if he would notice that the diapers were running low. He didn't. Then one diaper was left. I still didn't say anything. It took all my strength not to tell him. Last diaper goes. She poops in the last diaper. Then he has a panic. There's no diaper. I'm like, yeah, what to do? And he's like, what's the number? Where do I get diaper? I'm like, use Google, you know? And I realized that sometimes you can't, like I always felt like I need to make sure the medicine cabinet is full, the diaper, this is full, that Didi knows what to cook for lunch, everything. I'm a manager, I'm a CEO running the place. And that, if the man can assume, because, you know, it's not really about the dirty work. Everybody can help, like, after you tell them what to do, if I'm like, ye karo, he can go and do. But the mental work of planning ahead and being like, okay, this week we need all this sorted, is the mental work of taking care of the household that men can assume.
Okay. And last is not a question but a compliment. I've seen your movies a lot, but you look beautiful in real life a lot.
Thank
than
you.
in real life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To a very large extent, is responsible for Bollywood movies generating less revenue now? Because there was a time when the silver screen was considered the epitome, the ultimate. And OTT had just come in. And probably I think OTT is a platform that during COVID, it was a boon for everybody because nobody could leave the house. So OTT tab tak to theek tha because the situation was such. But do you think it has backfired after Bollywood movies chose to enter this platform? Because end of the day, what I get to hear is, yaar movie chali nahi kyunki public knows ki 3-4 mahine baad it will come on OTT. So what's the point of going to the silver screen? मैं 3-4 महीने बाद I have a 1-year subscription with $1,400. So the movie will as it is come on OTT. So is Bollywood like practically thinking on something to do about it? Because we've had back-to-back movies not generating much revenue. End of the day, they come to OTT and OTT has become a loss recovery kind of a platform. The reason why I'm concerned is one of my biopic is coming by next year called Malakal by John Abraham. So John and I are actually, you know, brainstorming one another. And at times I get very finicky. I call him at 1 o'clock at night. He takes my call. He's like, yeah, Major, what's wrong? I said, I don't know, but something is not right. So is it a genuine concern for everyone at the moment, or everybody's kind of trying to leave it to the, you know, Tollywood movies because they are on the rise, the action sequences and the way they project the stories. So is Bollywood now deliberately taking a break?
I think it is a genuine concern. You know, I got a phone call from one of my friends who's an actor, and she's like, are you unemployed? I said, yeah. She's like, me too. And 5, 6, 7, 8 actors I know, and of all ranges, from famous to not famous, are all running around not getting work. And there has been a little bit of a drought. It is a strange time in Bollywood. I think, what can I say? I think everything goes through these phases of like adjustment. It wasn't help, the COVID didn't help the cinema business. Everybody just stayed at home and then got used to that as well. And now with access on phones and everything, people commuting, there's less and less of this possibility also with the kind of lives that we lead to go to the cinema. Where do I have time to go to the cinema, I'm going to watch stuff on OTT. So it is a very challenging thing to have to face. And if you see that in Hollywood already, so indie cinema and anything alternative, anything, not even, just a drama or any comedy is not even going there. It's only like the franchise films, the Marvel comics, those kind of things that are in the cinemas. So it's changing. What can I say? There was a time where everyone went to the circus. And now that, circus is not doing so well. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're invested in this much more than most of us. I wish you luck. And, I hope the film finds the audience.
We'll take 2 questions now, the last 2 questions.
Hi, Kalki. Kalki, you were a part of a movie called That Girl in Yellow Boots.
Yeah.
I would say that was a very brave movie to be a part of. And
Yeah.
My question to you is, what kind of impact does it leave on an actor when you play that character of a Ruth in a movie like that? After the movie is completed, after you are back to your normal life.
I mean, at that time, because it was early on in my career, I didn't have the tools. So I thought to play an intense character like Ruth, I had to be intense all the time. So I would isolate myself from everybody on the set. I put on these headphones and I had a whole playlist for Ruth. And I was like in the character listening to like heavy metal. That was my world. And it worked great for the film. And I'm happy that the character came out. But what happened was that I was exhausted by the time the film was over. And I was moody with everybody. And I was not a pleasant person to be around. And I said, this is not sustainable in the long run. And over time, I have found that if I am shooting for 8 hours straight in a very intense role, when I leave, it's very important for me to consciously do something for the next hour that is completely the opposite. It might be a kickboxing class, it might be a dance, it might be like anything. It might be watching some rom-com, just really changing the energy in my body, in my nervous system, so that I can have the energy to keep doing that. And also it makes me much more pleasant to be around on set. So now I've found that balance.
Thank you. One more question, please. That's the last question.
Hi, Kalki. Hi. This is
Yes.
Kalki. How are you?
Good, how are you?
So I am back at my alma mater. I'm an alumna of the school. So I just wanted to ask that you just said that the book came out of journaling, right? The book came into existence and you've also put a lot of emphasis on journaling in a lot of your interviews. So I just want to know what role has journaling played in your life? And my second question is, I've just hit quarter century and the 20s are all about, as they say, figuring out. So what were your 20s like? And just one more thing, which is
I'm not going to remember these. Huh.
Just one last thing being, please let me know a book recommendation for someone like me who likes to read a lot.
A book recommendation, I recently read Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi. Beautiful book, read it. First question was what?
Journaling.
Journaling, yes, very important role it's played in my life. I find it's therapy. It has really helped me find the voice that I have, articulate what is it that I can't articulate, my emotions, my anger, all of those things, my frustration has come out because of journaling. It's also given me perspective over time. When I look back 15 years later, at something I've written, yes, that's where I was in that, that changed. In that time, I didn't think it was going to change. And over time, you realize the patterns. The first time you have your heart broken, you think that's it, you're going to die. The second time, the third time, it gets easier. It's just as painful, but you know that it's going to change. You know that you can get over it. You have the experience, the lived experience. So that is a wonderful thing that journaling is for. And the other question?
What were your 20s like?
My 20s were very helter-skelter. I was, I'd studied in London. I came back to Bangalore. I was trying to do theatre in Bombay as well. I was a little bit everywhere. Relationships also everywhere. It was a time for experimentation, let's say.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I think, thank you, Kalki, for a lovely session, and thanks for saving me in the middle.
Not at all. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.